Howdy, partners. So hit like and hit subscribe. It costs you nothing. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends. If you don't have friends, go find some friends and then tell them. Just help me out growing the channel. It's actually my activity, and I'm trying to put out more videos and some different content and motorcycle tutorials and tuning, and trying to add some additional content, bringing back some of the gun content, just being very careful how I do it. So anyway, it helps me out. Help brother out. So I'm trying to figure out what phone to get next. So I currently have the iPhone 13 Pro. I think it's a 256 or a 512 gigabyte. It's been a good phone. I know I've been very anti-Apple over the years because of some of their business practices, the planned obsolescence, the tanking your performance by reducing the core frequency on your CPU to make it slower, to preserve the battery health. But they only did it when they released a new phone. And they wanted your phone to feel like, oh, it's kind of slow. Maybe I need to go spend $1,100 on the new one. Holding back features that Android owners have had for years, intentionally holding them back from what I consider to be industry standard functionality, so that 2 years from now you can sell it as a upgrade. Everyone thinks Apple is this wonderful, caring, compassionate company. They're sharks. They're sharks. Their PR game is second to none. They make it sound like everything they do, every time they screw you, it's for your benefit. We're not going to start when you buy a new phone, it supports fast charging, but we're not going to give you a charger with your new phone. You have to go buy that extra for $50. Why? And they give you some bullshit answer about how, we're doing it to save the oceans and plastic. And no, you're doing it to save money. You're not charging less for the phone. You're charging the same or more than you used to, but you're giving me less. And I have to now go out and buy a charger to take advantage of the fast charging that the new phone has. It's all about making money. That's all Apple cares about. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about the oceans. And that's a whole nother issue. If there's phone chargers are ending up in plastics in the oceans, that's not because we have plastics. It's because scumbag sanitation companies don't do what they're supposed to do with it, which is recycle it or burn it or bury it in the ground, whatever they're supposed to do. They just say, we're going to take the money and we're just going to go out in the middle of the ocean and dump it because it's cheaper. That's the problem, not me getting a phone charger or a cable with my phone. Anyway, but Apple has that way of giving you less, charging you more, and then somehow convincing you that that's a benefit to you. And it's not. So I'm an Android fanboy at heart. I love the ability to ROM it and root it, and which is the equivalent of jailbreaking if you're a an Android or an Apple fan. I like the fact that it's like I can just tell it. I have so much more flexibility. Now, Apple has caught up in a lot of ways, hence why I'm on a 13 Pro. The camera is top-notch, not as good as a Pixel, but it's up there with Samsung. The differences between them now are so... Google does have some extra magic sauce in their AI and their processing software to where nobody's taking good pictures is Google. That's their thing. But Apple's right there. And the quality, the feel, the fit and finish, Apple makes amazing products despite their crappy corporate philosophy and the way they treat their customers at times, and despite the fact that they withhold features and things. But if you just need a phone and you want to play games and get on social media and take videos and stuff like that, nothing wrong with an Apple phone. iOS has come a long way. They now have widgets. It's still not as fully fledged as what Android had 10 years ago, where you can change the fonts and the colors. And if I want to arrange my icons in a certain way because I've got my dog's face as a wallpaper, but I don't want icons all over his face. Just little things of just saying, look, just like you can on your MacBook, just like you can on a Windows desktop or laptop. Let me just lay things out the way that makes sense to me and how I like to work. And if I want a different font, I want a different theme, I want to change my icon packs without having to jump through hoops or just let me do that. It's my phone. If I want to plug in my phone to a USB cable and just use it as a thumb drive. I got a whole bunch of work PDFs and PowerPoints, but I don't want to have to sit there and try to airdrop them from a non-Windows phone, which I can't do. I don't want to have to take the time to upload it all to Google Drive or Box and then download them all back to. I just want to plug it in, and like a thumb drive, just, you plug in a thumb drive to your computer and it pops open with Explorer or whatever the MacBook one is. And I want to just drag and drop it and just have it copy it. Same thing with pictures. Just put them in a folder, called Photos, and just let me drag and drop. Same thing with music. Don't make me use iTunes. Just let me grab all the music I want off my computer and drag it to the phone. And it just copies it like any other USB transfer to a directory. But you can't do that. So it's just a lot. And I could go, this is not me bitching about Apple. I'm telling you this just to understand where some of my frustrations, as much as I like the hardware, as much as I think it's a great phone, and it is, gripes aside, Apple Maps has come a long way, CarPlay's come a long way, iOS has come a long way. It still falls short in most ways to what Android's doing, especially if you're on a Pixel. Google's just got a more intuitive, easier to use, while doing more and giving you much more flexibility and not saying, here's a box. You live in this box. Don't do anything out of this box. We know we're smarter than you. We know what you want. You just do what's in this box. I don't like that philosophically from a vendor. You build it, you make it work, make it as good as it can be. But if I want the UI to look a little different, if I want to make changes to it, if I want to, I have half a terabyte of storage on my phone. Why would I walk around with a separate USB thumb drive in my pocket? I already have one. I'm going to have my phone with me everywhere I go. Why not let me just plug it into any computer and just drag shit back and forth? Google Maps is better. As good as Apple Maps has gotten better, Google Maps still blows it out of the water. So here's my quandary. There's one reason why every year I tend to upgrade, just because I like the stuff. I like the tech. I like playing with new gadgets. I got the iPhone 13 Pro because it had all the features and it was a solid phone. I love my MacBook M1. It's a MacBook Air M1. Should have gotten more storage because I'm running out of space editing up videos for YouTube all the time. But we're going to replace that probably with a MacBook Pro. Get 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte storage, and that'll probably last me for 5-6 years. MacBooks are awesome. Can't use it for a PC because I do a lot of gaming, so I need like a real PC to handle that. Wearables, Apple's got the best, but honestly, I've got my Apple Watch. I haven't worn it in months, honestly, other than the novelty of just looking at my wrist and being able to, I never use the thing. I don't use any of the health stuff. I've gotten out of the habit of wearing a watch. So the other thing is that while the iPhone 13 Pro sounds great to have a more compact, but have all that power and beautiful screen, 120 hertz display, all that cool stuff, I'm having trouble with when you got hands this freaking big and you're trying to type on a little tiny keyboard where the individual letters are that big, it's hard to type. It really is hard to bang out emails, texts, posts, respond to people's YouTube comments and stuff. And the autocorrect on Apple is horrific. It's like having a monkey do your autocorrect. It gets it wrong far more than it ever gets it right. So I need a bigger screen. I need a bigger keyboard. If I was a 13-year-old girl with hands half the size, if I had little tiny Trump hands, it'd probably be fine. But I got man hands. So my thumb covers up half the goddamn keyboard. So I need a bigger phone. So here's my quandary. Here's what I'm trying to figure out. Here's the pros and cons. The iPhone 13, or I'm sorry, the iPhone 14 Pro Max looks great. It's everything I like about my iPhone, but more. It's got the bigger screen, slightly better cameras, if that makes a difference. The notch is smaller, great. You should just get rid of the whole goddamn thing and should never had that abomination on there. I will gladly take a little bezel on the top. What's the point of having a bezel-less screen if you had to take a knife and carve a giant chunk out of the top for the stuff? That was an abomination. I feel like Steve Jobs would have fired whoever proposed that on his device and interrupted the clean lines and all that stuff. But at least they're listening. They've made it smaller. It's less annoying. The always-on display is cool. I mean, that's been around for 5 years on the Android side, but all right, hey, you're late to the party. You haven't done as good of an implementation as Google, as the Pixel does it, but you have it now. You can check the box. Apple's got it. It looks really cool. It's got the new action mode and stuff like that. But I've been looking at the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. I've been waiting on the Pixel, but here's my problem with Pixels. Well, here's my problem with phones in general. We go back and forth, and I'm a fanboy for this, and we'll have our arguments about who got this feature first and this and that. But at the end of the day, here's the dirty little secret. They're all the same. Every phone's the same. Well, one's got a headphone jack, one doesn't. They're all rectangles. They're all freaking boring. There's not been any innovation in the smartphone world for a decade. They've gotten faster. The screens got prettier. The speakers got louder. You packed more RAM in them. You packed more storage in them. But it's still just a rectangle. They run the same apps. They do the same goddamn things. Doesn't matter if it's Motorola or Samsung or a Pixel or what iPhone you pick. They're all the same. They all work the same. They all largely do the exact same things, and they do it the same way they did it 5 years ago. The phone market's got boring. It's like if all you had were 2 or 3 cars on the market. You had a Mustang, you had a Vet, you had a Camaro. And each year, oh, this one's got 5 more horsepower. Oh, this one's got 10 millimeter larger disc, front rotors for better brake. Okay, but you haven't really changed the body style. You tweak the colors every year, but for 10 years, all you got are those 3 cars, and they are all just about as fast as each other. And someone can say, well, the iPhone's got the faster chip. It doesn't matter in the real world. No one's running benchmarks for a living. Swiping and doing apps and posting on Instagram and doing all the shit you do on your phone, one's not appreciably faster than the other in the real world. Synthetic benchmarks don't mean shit. It's bragging rights for geeks who don't have anything else to brag about, so they're going to brag about, I own this thing that scored a higher number than your thing that you bought. Who cares? Doesn't mean anything. The international sign for tosser. So, I don't know what to do. I need to replace the phone. I need to get a bigger keyboard because it is very frustrating to type on a smaller keyboard. I thought it would be cool because, it'll slip in my pocket. It's more convenient. Do I want to walk around with a phablet while I've got a 11-inch Samsung Galaxy S tab that I use for ECU flashes and I need Android for that, which is another benefit of getting a Pixel or an Android phone is that I can do it from my phone and do ECU tuning, clearing codes, diagnostics, all that stuff on my bikes. Doesn't work. There is no iOS app for that. But Apple's got their hooks in me a little bit. Oh, before I go into that, what I was thinking about the Z. It's a cool phone. It's a flexible screen. You fold it in half, it becomes thicker, but it's half the size, and you just slip it in your front shirt pocket, slip it in your front pants pockets where typically bigger phones aren't comfortable. When you open it up, it's like the size of a Pro Max. It's a full-size phone. That hinge is sturdy. The screen looks good. You can still see the little crease if you have it at the right angle when it's off, but when you open it up and you're watching a video, it disappears. You don't see it. It's got the latest gen processor from Snapdragon. It's got great cameras. And the way it's configured, the selfie cameras are actually the bigger cameras that are on the outside. When you fold it in half, You have a secondary screen on the back that you can scroll through your messages without opening the phone. When you open the phone, you can use it as it's like a mini laptop. You use it as a tripod to do content creation and things that I could do for my channel. Turns the bottom part into a trackpad to do edits on the pictures that are on the top part. It's literally like having a tiny little MacBook, but with Android. When you hold it, remember the old, trying to hold and you're in landscape, remember how you used to hold a camcorder? You fold the phone in half so that it's at a 90-degree angle. I don't even have anything here to frickin' do that. Let's just pretend my Post-its. So let's say this is the phone. You open it 90 degrees, so it's like that, and you're holding it like this in your hand. And here you got your display. You can hit record, all that stuff while you're looking, and you have all your controls, and you use it as a frickin' 4K 60 camcorder. And when you're done, close it and put it away. I mean, that to me is innovation. That is something cool. That is something that is not boring. It's different. Samsung thought outside the box and said, look, how do we take all the cool stuff about the damn smartphones and the high, 120 hertz screens and all this stuff and all this processing power and the cameras and everything, but how do we make it different so that it's not just a different colored brick like everybody else's phone? That flip phone is cool as shit. I'm leaning heavily towards the new Z Flip 4. I may even just pull the trigger this weekend and just go get one and trade in my iPhone 13 Pro. It's a really cool ass phone. It has all the Google stuff I like. It's got Samsung's One UI, which these days is pretty goddamn good. It's a Samsung. Samsung's the largest phone maker now in the world. They sell more phones than Apple does. Android itself is 71% of the global smartphone market. I mean, Android just crushes it. But Samsung's the biggest player there, and they have now surpassed Apple as far as phones go. Here's the one thing that's holding me back, the clause I mentioned that they have in me. I got the damn MacBook. It is really cool when I'm on the phone and my phone goes off, or I'm on the laptop watching TV and phone goes off, and it pops up on my MacBook and I just hit answer and I just talk through the laptop without having to get my phone out. That's pretty cool. Being able to airdrop something that's frankly faster than USB just by, I got this video I just recorded here, and just go send and boop, it just beams it to the laptop. Pretty cool. The other thing is I use my Apple card. I got the Goldman Sachs, titanium card from Apple. I use it all the time because I get points. I use it for work and reimbursements, and because I get the points on it and stuff like that. I can pay the bill and I can do some things from a MacBook, but they specifically hold back some of the features. So, as an example, all my points go to there's your Apple card, the Goldman Sachs MasterCard or Visa, whatever it is. And then there's your Apple Cash account that you just have as part of, I guess it's probably connected to iTunes. All my points go to that account. You cannot access that through iCloud or the laptop or a web interface or anything. You must have an iPhone or an iPad. The MacBook doesn't count. So all my points go there, and after a while, I'm like, oh, cool, I got $100 sitting in that account. I can't access it if I don't have an iPhone. Which means if I switch to Android, I got to go buy a goddamn iPad just to access my money on there. Or just let it sit there forever. I don't know, maybe I could use it in iTunes, so if I buy music, it'll pull from there first. I don't even know. The point is like, those are the dirty little tricks that they do. The whole, we're not going to embrace RCS. Because they know that the blue bubbles versus the green bubbles care to Apple people. Why does it matter to Apple people? Because Apple told you should care about that. And after 5 years of brainwashing, you actually think that, people think like, there was a comedian that made a joke like, emailed some chick or texted some chick and it came back in a green bubble. He's like, oh, I'm a date. Never mind, you're poor, Meanwhile, the Android phones cost more than the iPhones. Go get a Z Fold. Go get some of these higher end Samsung phones. They cost more than the iPhones. So it's not a matter of cost. It's not a matter of quality. This is a marketing and a perception becoming reality in some people's minds because they're ignorant. They just don't know any better. But, that's the thing that I'm this close to getting that Z. Being able to use it as a camcorder when I'm doing something. Putting it on the desk and it makes its own tripod because it folds and you can angle it the way you want without having to get something propping it up and hope that you don't bump the table and it all falls over. Like, there's some really cool thinking that went into that fold phone that I could use. Like, that's cool. But, and I got Airbud Pros. My wife got me those for my birthday last year. I mean, I guess I could give them to her. But I feel bad, But those are the things that are like, and that's what Apple does. They get you roped in and get those hooks in you, so it becomes what we know in sales to be a barrier to exit. If you go do payroll or something, you outsource payroll, right, to a company like an ADP or something. Yeah, they're doing your payroll, but then they want to sell you HR. Then they want to sell you 401k administration. Oh, you need Cobra? Oh, hey, we've got this, we've got that. And before you know it, and that way when their service sucks, and they mess up your taxes and you can't get someone on the phone to fix it because, it's just the reality of dealing with a call center environment instead of dedicated support, and you want to leave and you're like, you know what, I'm out of here. And then someone will go, yeah, but our entire HR, our applicant tracking system, all of our onboarding, our performance reviews, our time and attendance system, the time clocks we paid for that are physically hung on the wall that we now own, the 401k you know what, just, it's too much pain to unhook all those other claws just so you'll put up with poor service or lack of functionality or something. Apple is exactly the same way. Get you hooked on this. Oh, it integrates with it. Because they know the more of those things you have, then when you find the weak link in the chain and you're like, you know what, I'd really rather have a Pixel or a Samsung or something else that has a completely different form factor that's more versatile and does this and is more, flexible and lets me customize it the way that I want to doing things their way. But then my AirPods ain't gonna work. Okay. Well, I mean, they do sell other AirPods. I guess that's one thing. I'm talking through my process here. I'm looking for advice and feedback, but I'm also, because if you got one of those phones, if you got the new 14 Pro Max or you've got the Flip, I want to hear from you. But that becomes the issue. It's like, all right, well, I can regift my AirPod Pros to my wife. I know she'd use them. With her, she's got an iPhone 13 Pro Max. And it'll work with whatever next. She'll probably get an iPhone next one, and that'll work with that. I know I could give my my Apple Watch to one of her daughters that'll use it. So I guess that's not a huge issue. It's more the annoyance of they make it hard to then use my Apple Card and see real-time transactions and pay my bill in real time and disputing all that stuff is just all ingrained, and only some of it is in the web interface. But the fact that all my points from my Apple Card will be locked away from me unless I go buy a cheap ass iPad that I have just for that to go in and transfer my points to my account or something every few months. I mean, in the end, I'm not making enough off of points to retire anytime soon. So I guess if after time I got a couple $100 in there, at some point I could probably justify going and buying an iPad and then reimburse once I get in, then I can reimburse myself to pay for the iPad, right? I guess I could do that. So, but that Z is, man, that's calling to me. It's a really cool device. And being able to just flick it open and have a full ass screen that's 120 hertz and beautiful to look at, super sturdy glass, Gorilla Glass, Invictus glass on the back. I mean, it's a proper phone. It's not a cheap phone. It can be over $1,000, but it's a really cool phone. But also it where it excels and what intrigues me is the whole folding and being able to use it as its own tripod and its own camcorder in a way that is actually very ergonomic and natural to shoot action shots and do things. When you're on a Zoom call, you just fold it in half, what's called flex mode, and now the camera is angling up, but you just sit on the desk and angle it at you like you would your laptop. Instead of sitting there trying to hold it and Like little things like that make it more usable. And just having a rectangle, frankly, has gotten boring. It's gotten boring to me. So I'll be curious to see what you all think. If anybody has used, I know the Flip Z3 or whatever had bad battery life. The new one's getting great reviews. There's a lot of people going, this is legit. A lot of really well-known good review sites. But, I like to hear from actual people. But that's my quandary. I need something with a bigger keyboard that works better with those. If you got an X or XL or 2XL glove size, trying to work on the small iPhone, dude, I can't not fat finger the keyboard every freaking time I use it. So I need to upgrade to something. The path of least resistance is go with the iPhone 14 Pro Max. It'd give me a bigger screen, some nicer specs, easier to type, but it's massive and it's boring. It's the same. It's just a bigger version of what I have. Now, going to the bigger version does solve that one problem of the size. And it lets me still access my stuff, my accounts in it. And it will still work with my earbuds, so I wouldn't have to replace those. I just don't want to get locked into an iPhone for another year, knowing at some point it'll probably piss me off. And that Flip Phone Z thing, the 4, it's a really cool phone. I went over, I'm going to go look at it again at the AT&T store this weekend. I was playing with it at lunchtime yesterday. I had to run a couple errands. So I stopped over at the AT&T store while I was out. It was cool. The iPhone 14 Pro Max was cool too. I'm not going to lie, man. Beautiful display. But it's just a big honking phone, especially when you go putting a case on it. You're walking around. My first tablet was the Google Nexus 7. Was a 7-inch tablet. Well, a Pro Max is like a 6.7 or 6.8 inch screen. It's the size of the first tablet I had. And you're walking around like, hello? It's great to type on, great to watch a movie on. I don't game on my phone. I got a big ass gaming system here for that. But, if you do all those things, it's phenomenal. But I go slide in my pocket, it's always falling out because it's almost like sticking out. When I had I think I had an iPhone, I've had a Pro Max before. Might have been the 10, the X Pro Max, I don't know. I've had a Pro Max in the past, and they're cool, but goddamn, they're big and heavy. And the Samsung won't be any lighter, but when you fold it in half and it's only that big, just like a sandwich, like an ice cream sandwich, or a Klondike bar. It's not that thick, but you know what I mean? You just you're talking and click in your pocket, in your front pocket. You can put it in a shirt pocket. It's little. And being able to use it without even opening it up, you can scroll through your messages, you can hit play, you can take a selfie without even opening the phone or turning it on, because that has a 1.9 inch AMOLED back screen. And there's another camera on the back. Well, actually, your two primary cameras are on the back. So when you're taking selfies, you're taking it with the big lenses, not the normal punch out, the normal selfie cam. It has one of those on the inside as well. So when you're using the phone fully opened, that's when you get the little camera. So if you take a selfie that way, but if you're taking selfies with it closed, you got the big boys. You got some really nice photography. Anyway, I've been talking almost half an hour, trying to talk myself into one of these or the other. So give me your insights. And don't just, Apple sucks, or Android sucks, whatever. Let me know what you think. Honestly, objectively. Thank you.